Hello everybody and welcome to the third Facebook Live for today. It's World Card Making Day and we have had a big day of craft alongs. I hope that some of you had the opportunity to craft alongside with me, or you've taken and learned something and you will apply it to a future project. My name is Tatiana. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Australia and part of the 2021 Artisan Design team. Tonight I'm going to talk about blending brushes because they are fairly new to the Stampin' Up product line, and they are an amazing tool and you can do so many fun techniques with them. So grab your blending brushes and your cardstock and your mask, not this mask, your decorative mask, and let's get started. So I already mentioned today, hello ladies, that I'll be using Coastal Cabana and Bermuda Bay. My suggestion, sorry, I'm just gonna straighten. It's a bit better. I don't like crooked. Yep. So don't like cords showing in videos. Nope, not cooperating, hey? There, better. Okay, so as I mentioned today already that for the technique that I'm sharing tonight, you'll need two colors. What's up, little miss? Yeah, Lukey, can you please tuck them in? Yeah. And I did suggest that you have a dark color and a light color. And the light color in the same color cardstock, and then the dark color coordinating, and then a decorative mask. So the masks I'm using are from the Adorning Design decorative masks. They're in the July to December mini catalog, and I've chosen the snowflake one because I'm a little obsessed. We have 2 or 3 other packets of mask. It doesn't matter what the design is for this technique, it's just the mask that's important to have. Hello everybody, thanks for joining in. Okay, and the other thing we need is a card base. And I've got a card front, and this is being cut so that it's 1 centimeter smaller than the card front, so we get a nice border. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that card front and a little bit of masking tape, and we are going to just roll it, place it on back, and that just is going to hold our cardstock still. So that's my first tip when using, well, not necessarily blending brushes, but when using masks and over a page, to tape down the cardstock, because if your cardstock is smaller than the mask, then you're not going to be able to control if it moves or not. That's a bit better. And then I also suggest, it has been a long day. They were supposed to have brushed their teeth and then they were still chewing gumballs, so they had to brush their teeth again. And I'm also taping down the mask, so I can still flip it up, but it is slightly down. I don't feel the need to tape both sides down or all 4 sides down, but it is good. Hello, Jessica, it's been a long time, so lovely to have you join me. Okay, now I am adding another supply that I didn't mention. It's because I experimented it a bit this afternoon, and we will be using also embossing paste. So I've got this shimmery embossing paste here, and because we're using the embossing paste, I've got a tub of water. So embossing paste will dry very quickly, and if you're not by the sink, or if you can't clean your mask straight away, you need to drop it into some water. So I've just prepped that off screen as well, and then I've got a palette knife. Now that bit is completely optional. Okay, so I'm starting off with my Coastal Cabana, and remember that the cardstock is Coastal Cabana. Blending brushes, so they're sold in sets of 3, and the bristles are white. And it's a fairly flexible brush, and I have found that I prefer holding it closer to the head of the brush, and I feel that I get a lot more control. You can use these on multiple colors. You can just brush off until the color, you can see I was just brushing in there, and ever so slightly there's a bit of Coastal Cabana. And you can wash, oh gosh, don't fling them. I don't recommend flinging them, but you can wash them as well. To wash them, you don't necessarily need soap, but the minutest drop of dishwashing liquid is all right. Just like when I say minute, I really mean minute. And it's also handy to have one of those makeup brushy things, you know, ones that you can put on your hand, or they're very handy to get the ink off. And then it removes pretty much the ink. I don't wash mine that much because, one, I never know when I want them again, and two, I like to have 2 for every color group. So I kind of have, well, in this case, because Bermuda Bay and Coastal Cabana are their own color group, I have 1 for each, but I have like a dark pink and a light pink and a dark blue and a light blue. And yeah, so the other tip you could do is, if you've got a microfiber cloth, you can also clean the head on there. But if you don't get all the color out and you use it into another color, you will be blending those 2 colors together. So just take note. And then the other most important thing is, when you do wash them, you have to let them sit with the bristles facing down. So I generally find I place them on the edge of a table so that the bristles are felt looking down. They won't drip water, but if you let them dry with that, the water will run down into the adhesive that's holding the bristles in the brush head, and that's not good. It'll destroy it. Well, not destroy, but it'll unglue it eventually, and that's not good. So that's a little bit of brush care there. Hey Ida, thank you for joining me. So to get ink, to pick up ink, this is kind of how I hold my brush. You can hold it this way, however you feel more comfortable. And I do light, I'm not pressing very hard, light circles on the ink pad surface. And then it's always a nice idea to kind of start off your surface. Using a mask is kind of nice because you can kind of start on the mask, and then working in circular motions. So it's all circular motions, picking up ink in circular motion and depositing ink in circular motion. That is the key. And the more you go over in an area, particularly with freshly applied ink, the darker that area will be. Now, I don't want mine to be too dark, but I don't want it to be too light either. So I'm going to go over all the snowflakes. Now, I know we live in Australia, like most of us watching. Well, I do have someone from Germany watching, so I mean, they have snow. But most of us in Australia, we don't really have snow, but I just find it so mesmerizing. And because I've taped it down, I can confidently flip and see how the results are. So I'm very happy with the ones up here. I think I'd like a little bit more color on the snowflakes down there. So I'm going to pop the mask back down, make sure it's lined up, and then add a little bit more ink. And then you can also tap, but that does give you quite a heavy color. So just make sure you start on the edge, because when you start, you can see there's heavy bits. There we go. I'm happy with that as is. So now I'm going to lift this up, and I've also got a card insert to put on the inside of the card. So while we've got the mask all going and the ink all going, I thought it would be fun to add some blended snowflakes onto the bottom there as well. So I'm just going to place, doesn't matter where I place that, flip that down, and just remembering that I only want them towards the bottom and fairly light. go. There. I know that looks like the top, but I flipped it. Not that it really matters. It can be on the top or the bottom, but there, that kind of adds a little bit of a fun element on the inside of our card. And I'm going to do the same for the envelope flap. Now let me just double check. It doesn't quite fit the full width, but it'll be all right. I'm going to just place that masking tape again there, and I'm also going to grab a smaller piece of grid paper so that I can cover the envelope. Are the brushes better than the daubers? I much prefer the brushes, Amanda, compared to the daubers. The daubers give a bit more of a streaky effect, particularly if, like, I find that when I go over the edges, cardstock edges, the daubers can rip a little bit, and those little rips give a little bit of a streak texture, which I'm not a fan of. I like a nice smooth blend. That's a lot more smoother than I should hold that up. That's a lot more smoother than what a sponge dauber would. Sponge daubers still have their use. They're good for small details. This is much better for bigger. So if you want to ink blend an entire background, a sponge dauber is going to take ages. Whereas with the blending brushes, it's a lot quicker and a lot easier. It takes a bit of patience because you've got to have that light hand, and just particularly if you're doing a full card front, it takes a little bit of time to get that nice coverage, full coverage. But yeah, no, I'm a massive fan of the blending brushes. And see, it's good that it's taped down because it hasn't really moved. And if it has a little bit, it's not a big deal considering that's the envelope flap. So there we go. While we had that, we did the envelope flap. And there. Oh good, I'm glad that was a clear and good explanation. So I'm going to keep that mask there for a moment, and we're going to bring in our darker colour. So I've got Bermuda Bay, and we're kind of going to create a halo effect by going around the edges of the cardstock so that it becomes like lighter in the middle. And this is a really fun thing to do with your cardstock. So you don't have to just use the same color ink on the cardstock as the cardstock. So I don't have to use Coastal Cabana on the Coastal Cabana page. I could use another color ink, which is quite fun. And for this effect, I'm kind of going in circles, and then I'm going around in like a little semicircle motion. And the key here is to build up the color, not to get that darkness going straight away. And you do want to blend into the middle a bit, but not all the way, because we do want the Coastal Cabana cardstock showing through. So it's just going to take some time to build the color, but once you do, you'll see, it's probably starting to show a bit. I'm not sure how good the camera is picking up, but it is starting to show like a halo spotlight look. Now you can also use the brushes to put ink on your stamps, just like you would a sponge dauber. You know how you can use that trick to use the sponge dauber to get a two-tone effect? You can also use these brushes as well. So they're very versatile. So lots of different techniques and things to use with them. I'm simply sharing a few tonight, not even all of them. So if you look, you can probably see that halo effect that I'm talking about starting to form. And I haven't put any ink in the middle. So we've got our snowflakes, and we've got our brushes, and we've got our cardstock showing, and we also have the darker ink around the edges. Now, if you wanted to, you could have cut the cardstock just a bit bigger and then trimmed down the edges, because sometimes the edges do get that extra ink off the brush, but I just didn't feel like doing that. Just went for the correct size. And by doing this halo, I put that to the side, you can see that it's forming nicely. I'm quite happy with that. But with the halo, now when I place it on the Coastal Cabana, you can see the edges pop out a lot more comparatively to when it was all just Coastal Cabana. So that was what I was going to show you initially, but I then got playing, and it's so much fun adding the, what do you call it, the embossing paste. So we are going to add some embossing paste. So I'm going to put that masking tape back down. Is that the right way? Nope, it's this way. And I'm going to peel the mask off, and we're going to offset the mask. So first I'm going to line it up exactly how I originally placed it. That is looking pretty accurate. And now I'm going to shift it down and to one side. So you can go up and to one side. Point is just shift it, or perhaps on a diagonal, just a millimeter or two. It's ever so slight. So I'm going to go boom. So it's ever so slight. Now, when using your mask, you can see I've got inky fingers now. Note that the mask, because it's plastic, it does keep the ink on it. Now, I would wash the mask before applying any other ink color, otherwise it gets dirty. And I didn't do that before, so it was a good thing I experimented before we went live. So I'm about to put embossing paste on top, and that is going to pick up the ink that's in there. It's not a huge amount of ink that's there, but it is going to pick it up. I'm actually happy with that, and that's what I want, because I don't want the embossing paste to be pure white, but I don't want it overly dark. I don't want to ink the embossing paste either. So I'm just trying to grab, you'd be surprised how far this stuff goes. So you can always add more, but whatever's left over, because it's picked up the ink from the mask, you're not going to be able to put it back in your tub. So you're better off getting more embossing paste. So you can just see that it's like picking up. I can see that that embossing paste is now more Bermuda beige than it was white, but perhaps you won't see it on the camera. And all I'm doing is dragging it across, and it does dry fairly quickly, but you've got a bit of time to move it across. You can go heavy or as light as you like. I'm trying to do it quite thin. Oops, now if you look in there, where's the camera? You can just see that there's a bit of green Bermuda Bay picking up in there. That's okay. Not a big deal. But you can see that the embossing paste is picking up some of the ink that's on the mask. I just need that, didn't even need that much, but just going over, checking if there's any spots. There's a spot there that could use with a bit more. Now this step is completely optional, but what is basically going to happen is that, and see, you can kind of see how ever so slightly that is now being coloured. So what was I saying? So what's going to happen, because we moved the mask ever so slightly, the initial ink blending that we did is going to kind of create a nice little shadow look. Let's hope I moved the mask enough. I did. So I'm going to peel this off and put it into the water now quickly, and it can just sit in the water until I'm finished with the live. So that's all good. That's not going to dry up and ruin my mask. And I'm going to pop the palette knife in as well. But You can now see, can you see what I mean? It looks like those snowflakes are shadowed. Isn't that just fun? So I'm going to peel that masking tape off. And we're just going to need to leave that to dry for a little bit. So so it is important to have paper underneath. Oh, thank you for all those love hearts, those beautiful love hearts. To protect your work surface, to keep all the yucky bits inside. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I kind of fold it all up and then that can go in the bin. I don't put that in the recycling because the embossing paste isn't recyclable, so that is a rubbish bin moment. I'm going to grab, where's that? So while we're letting that dry just for a bit, it does dry fairly quickly, but I thought it would be fun just to add. So another fun technique is what I've done before is I've done the mask and added some color, and then I've gone over in the same color on top. So you've got a two-tone. So we're going to kind of do that here, but not all the way up as far as those snowflakes go. Just on the edge there. As if they're peeking through, and I'm kind of doing that semicircle movement again, just to kind of echo what was on the front. But this time I'm just using Coastal Cabana. So can you see why I just love those, and why I'm loving these blending brushes? And as I said, like they're sold, did I say? They are sold in packs of 3, so you get plenty there, and you can have 2 all dry ready to go and 1 drying on the side. They take about a day to dry properly, and it is important that they dry properly and downward. So for those who are joining, I did discuss about care of the brushes earlier in the video, and you can watch the recording. I talked about how to wash them and how to dry them once they're washed. But personally, I love having that variety of brushes so that I can just use the reds with the reds and the blues with the blues, and etc. So I've got my Coastal Cabana card base, and we're ready to stick down our card insert. And the rest of this live is fairly simple and easy because I have done all the prep, which is very unusual for a live, but you know, after so many lives in one day. What sizes? So the brushes only come in one size. So the three pack is in the one. All 3 are the one size in the 3 pack. There's only one size available, and they're about 3.5 centimeters across and 4.5 centimeters height. That's the brush tip, and the entire brush is just over 15, so it's about 16 centimeters. My ruler only goes to 15. And if you need the height of that, you let me know. But they're good size. So I've got embossing paste on my fingernail. Just wash that a little bit. Well, I've got glimmer on my fingers now, don't I? And this is now dry enough for us to add to the card front. Give it a nice swirl and swoosh. And take note which way you're adding it. I wanted the shadow to be down to the left, but if you want the shadow in a different direction, just take note as to which way you're. Yeah, no, they're all the same size. It would be nice to have a smaller one, I've got to admit, but they're all the same size. And I have here on a piece of Coastal Cabana the beautiful sentiment Snowflake Wishes for a Merry Christmas, and that comes from the Snowflake Wishes stamp set, which is in the annual catalogue. And I didn't trim this, So I'm going to grab a little trimmer and trim that down. So I will trim it to the width of the card bit that we decorated. And we're just going to trim that across at 10 centimeters. And I like it down there, but we could put it up there as well if there's any boo-boos. Actually, the embossing paste went a little bit under the mask in that spot right there, so I can cover that up with my sentiment. And we're going to use dimensionals to pop that on. And you could leave the card as is, just like that. But I thought we'd have a look. This is completely optional. But I have die cutted out some silver snowflakes. So I've cut that out from the silver foil specialty pack using the stitched snowflake dies, and I've used the big full snowflakes, and these are really cute. If I grab just two, you'll be able to see that they have stitching on them. How cool is that? Loving them. And if you saw my artisan project that went live yesterday, you would have seen that I made 3 cards featuring these snowflakes. So I thought it would be fun to add just a little bit of, let's see, that one there, and perhaps, what do we think? I need a smaller one. 3 down there. Oh, I like that. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 and place them as so. Now I'm going to just add the glue. It would have been smart to add the adhesive back sheets at this point, but you know, hindsight is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? But I'm not sure how well the adhesive sheet would have stuck to all that embossing paste either, so perhaps this is the way to go. Nice inky, yeah, this is proof that I've had a very good stamping World Card Making Day, doesn't it? Though this is all from the ink blending. I'll have a good shower after this and it'll come off, but yeah, inky fingers. Very inky fingers. I need to press those down a little bit to get them to adhere. If I grab some blocks, that will do the trick. And you could take it further and add some basic rhinestones or pearls. I don't know what else. But I am going to leave that one there because I don't want to take away from the background too much. So Joanne has just said, inky fingers are a sign of a good crafting day. Totally agree. And this is why she wears a black apron. I'm wearing a white t-shirt. Perhaps that was the worst choice. But I'm wearing that on stage one, Joanne. The one I got when we met. The gold foiling has kind of gone, or the rose gold, but it's still got the bit to it. And I'm just going to trim those snowflake fits there.
Oh, shit.
And there we go. That is one way you can use your blending brushes. We've got blending on the front, blending on the inside, and we've got some blending on the envelope as well. Ta-da! Yours is really, I'm surprised, Joanne. Anyhow, let me flip. And that is the wrap, or that's wraps, or that's the end of World Card Making Day, at least for me. It is definitely still continuing in Europe and in North America, where the time zone is different, and for them, they are entering into Saturday as we are leaving, sailing across. So hello from the future. I've had an amazing World Card Making Day for 2021. Thank you so much. There have been lots of names that have been popping up in every live I was going to say this week, but I mean it is also this week, but primarily I'm talking about today. You can catch all the replays on Facebook, and if you're watching on YouTube, that means the other ones are up on YouTube as well. Please remember to subscribe or like my page, depending on what platform you're watching, because I really appreciate that. And that'll also mean that you get notified of my content. I love to share my crafting adventure. Actually, I call it my stamping adventure. Anyhow, that's enough for me tonight. I am exhausted. I've still got the insides of the cards from the One Sheet Wonder from this morning to decorate, and the envelopes, you know, but anyhow, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week in New South Wales. It's a long weekend, so yay. And I'll catch you on my next live, hopefully Wednesday at 2 p.m. Australian. It'll be Australian Daylight Time, I believe. If the clocks are changing tonight, then it'll be Australian Daylight Time. So Sydney, Melbourne, but not Brisbane. Okay, that's enough.